Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to review episode 9 of Queen Sugar. But before we get started, as some of you may already know, that I only started doing these reviews about 3 weeks ago, and one of my main goals was to get to 100 subscribers so that I could personalize my URL for the channel. And thanks to you guys, I'm halfway there. So I think when I checked the other day, I had 51 subscribers. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel, and also to everyone who watches, who rates, comments, and share the video with others. Let you guys know that I really appreciate your support and your help. So let's get started. This week's episode was called Next to Nothing, and the show picks up. The storm has passed. Remember in the last episode, they were under a hurricane. So the storm has passed, and Aunt Violet and Hollywood go out to assess the damage. And Aunt Violet was acting like, everything was destroyed and there was all this damage and whatever was going on. But when the camera panned out across her yard, I just saw like random debris that you would see after any tropical system passes through. There were broken branches, there was stuff tossed about in the yard that wasn't secured. I think there was like a red pail and there was a broken screen, I guess, that came out of one of the windows. But like Hollywood told her, it's nothing that a little elbow grease and time can't clean up and put back together. So he basically tells her, stop worrying, I got it, I'll take care of everything. And I think there was something where he said, something, we've seen worse. I think that's what he said. We've seen worse. And then Violet was kind of like, yeah, have we? And I'm sure that was in response to him and the ex-wife situation. So anyway, we move on and we go to Charlie and Remy. Remy is on that porch that him and Charlie slept on, and he's putting the furniture back together and folding up the blankets and everything that they had given him for his little makeshift bed. And Charlie comes down and she's like, did you sleep well? With this little smile on her face. I'm like, girl, who you tried the food? Because you was right there with him till about 4 o'clock in the morning when you snuck your butt back upstairs to pretend like you had slept with Micah all night. But Remy has a smile and she has a smile. So we're like, y'all ain't fooling anybody. So Ralph Angel walks in and he's asking them, should they go over to the farm to check on the crops, because I think they said it was like 17 inches of rain, and so they're in a discussion about whether or not they need to pump the water from the crops so that it doesn't damage the crops. Then we go over and we have Nova, and she's walking into Aunt Violet's bedroom, and Aunt Violet is sitting on the bed, and I don't know if Aunt Violet is going through menopause or what is going on with her, but she's just looking devastated and depressed, and nobody can really lift her spirits. So Nova is unable to go back to her home in New Orleans because she says that the roads are closed. So she offers to help Aunt Violet go out into her garden and get things cleaned up and back into place. But Aunt Violet, she's being very down and negative, and she's saying, it's no use in trying to go out there. Everything is ruined. And, Nova tells her, it can be brought back to life. We just need to get the plants back in the ground and they'll spring forth, new flowers. And, kind of just using an analogy like, you just got to dig in and start back from scratch sometimes. But, the soil is fertile. Your life is still here, so you can grow again. You can, move on again. And Aunt Violet, she's kind of just still not buying into it. And so, Nova is, still trying to be optimistic and let them know, come on, let's at least give it a try. So then we have Micah, Nova, Blue, and Aunt Violet, and they're out in the garden cleaning up everything, fixing the trellises that have fallen over. And so Micah uses this opportunity to apologize to Nova for, all the mean things that Charlie said the night before. And he lets her know that, regardless of what's going on between him and his mom, that if he gets into that school in New Orleans, that he still wants to come live with Nova. And, Nova lets him know she appreciates that, but Charlie is his mom, and if she doesn't want him living with her, then he can't come and stay with her. So their bond is still strong. And I think Charlie better watch out because, kids are impressionable. And the last thing you want is your child to be taking sides with another relative against you. That's just never a good thing. So Ralph Angel, Remy, and Charlie, they head over to the farm. And as they're assessing the water levels and whether or not they need to pump or not, you hear this buzzing sound. And so Charlie walks towards where the noise is coming from and discovers that there are two dead bodies laying in some of the crops, have fallen over into like one of the rows of the crops. And so, of course, she panics and runs off. And we later find out that the two bodies belong to two of the workers that were helping them on the farm. Remember, the people wanted to leave, and Charlie told them to get their butts back out there and work until the storm comes or whatever. So two of those guys are dead, and we find out that they were actually murdered, that they were shot multiple times and left out there to die. So when I saw the previews the week before, and leading up to this episode, I kept thinking that it was going to be Hollywood's ex-wife out there in them fields, that she tried to get to Hollywood during the storm and something happened to her. But thank God it wasn't the ex-wife out there dead, because I think that would have just pushed poor Aunt Violet over the edge. The next scene we have, they've called the sheriff's department, and the sheriff is out there and he's taking a report, and he's in the living room, I think, with Charlie and Remy, taking their statements. So Ralph Angel is like hiding in Blue's bedroom at the house, and Aunt Violet comes in and she's basically telling him, regardless of the fact that you've been to jail, you can't always be afraid of the police, and you got to, stand up and be strong. This is your property too, so you need to go in and be a part of the conversation, with the sheriff's deputy there, and don't make it seem like he had to come searching for you to get your statement. And so, Ralph Angel, he's kind of in his feelings and doesn't want to go out there, but, Aunt Violet's like, no, you got to go. And I think she took him by the hand to lead him in there to sit down with the others. And, Ralph Angel is her baby. That's her baby. She gonna take care of him, protect him, no matter what. But it looks like Micah might have a crush. Chantel, that little asphyxiation with you didn't last very long. So they're outside and this truck pulls up, and it's a guy named Boogie and his daughter Kiki. And when I tell you Micah is smitten with Miss Kiki, it was like love at first sight. And Kiki tells Micah that her friends follow him on Instagram, but he looks much shorter. No, she said he looks taller in his pictures than he does in person. So she just crushed his poor little spirits just that quick. And so Vi, she comes outside and hears it. And then she tells Kiki to come in the house and help her do some things. Back at Ralph Angel's house, which is at the farm, we have Nova, and she's on the porch. And she is talking on the phone, and the person that she's talking to, she's asking, have they gone and checked on their house, and is everything in the Ninth Ward okay? And then she kind of tells them that, something's happened at the farm, so she needs to go and talk to the sheriff who's out there. And so we learned that the person that she was talking to was actually Chantal. So Nova hangs up the phone and she goes over to the sheriff and she starts asking him questions, about the migrant workers and stuff. And next thing we know, she pulls out her pen and pad and starts writing down what the guy is saying. He was like, hold on, are you writing down what I'm saying? And then she, tells him that she's a reporter. And so he kind of changes his tone, as far as what he was saying. And I think this scene sets the tone where the show is really going to be addressing the issue of migrant workers and how they're treated as being almost invisible here in the USA, although they are doing a brunt of the work that most Americans don't want to do because they're either too lazy or think that they're too good to do. So, but I still had an issue with Nova, pulling out the pen and pad, trying to make a story out of such a tragic event that's happened to her family. Let me pause right here because I forgot to mention that when the sheriff was interviewing Charlie and Remy about the workers, once they acknowledged that they were part of their team, he asked what was their names, and they didn't know what the guys' names were. And I thought that was really pathetic because I help someone who owns a construction company, and he hires probably half of his staff is Hispanic workers. And you get to know these people, you know who they are, you kind of learn their story and everything. And I just think like it would be horrible even for a business owner who may own, a mom and pop store or a law firm or something, to have people working for them and not know at least their name. Like, that is just so crazy. But then again, we did have Charlie, making the people go back out there when the storm was coming to finish planting the crop. So I can't say I'm surprised. So we're back at Aunt Violet's house, and she goes to talk to Ralph Angel because she wants to know why Darla is still at her house. And truth be told, I want to know why Darla is still there also, because that means that all this back and forth Ralph Angel has been doing, going to that farm and coming back to Aunt Violet's house, that means that Darla has been at Aunt Violet's house alone with Blue all this time. And if you know Aunt Violet doesn't like Darla, why were you not taking her with you? Because I thought that was just disrespectful to leave her there. And he advises Aunt Violet that Darla can't go home yet because the roads are still closed. So as Aunt Violet is about to walk away, she turns around and she asks Ralph Angel, is it true that they didn't know what the workers' names were? And so he lets her know that it was true. And so she tells him, you know, that they should be ashamed of themselves. And I think Ralph Angel said something about, you know, you being real selective about your opinions or your sympathies. I think that's what he said. You're being really selective about giving out your sympathies. So I guess he thought that Aunt Violet should be sympathetic to them and not to the dead people. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. And so I also thought it was odd that nobody thought to call Prosper, the farm guy, the guy that they hired to manage the farm, because I'm surely thinking that he knew what the guys' names were. And then I also was thinking that, you know, when these guys, usually when you have a situation where you have migrant workers or the Hispanic workers, there's usually one person who pulls all the guys together. It's not like you go out and you hire individual guys. You hire a group of guys, and so there's a leader or a person who knows, like if you say, okay, I need 10 people, this one guy will go out and get those 10 people because they usually live in the same communities and they're usually very close to one another. So the fact that they didn't call the head guy, you know, to let him know, hey, we have a situation over here, can you come, or whatever. They didn't do any of that. So I thought that was kind of odd. But anyway, outside, Kiki and Micah are talking, and so she asks Micah if it's true that he's friends with Jaden Smith, and Micah lets her know, you know, yes, he is, because their parents are friends. And so then he asks Kiki, does she have a crush on Jaden? And so someone fires a gun, and of course Micah almost craps in his pants, and Kiki laughs, and she's like, you know, it's deer hunting season. And so she asks him, has he ever shot a gun before? And he says, sure, I've shot a gun before. And she's like, well, paintball doesn't count. And I'm like, she is just hurt poor Micah's feelings. So, you know, Hollywood comes in and he's like, oh, you know, and he tells him what type of gun it was, and that the guys, that whoever shot the gun is probably like a mile away from them. So I think Micah is going to be getting some shooting lessons real soon. I'm sure Hollywood probably goes out hunting, and he'll probably take Micah with him, and Charlie will have a fit because she don't want a child holding a gun or some craziness like that. Back over at the farm, Nova walks in and Charlie is going through some papers, and so she tells Nova that she can't believe she didn't know the guys' names, and she shares that when the guys were getting ready to leave, she forced them to stay and work, and that had she not done that, you know, they probably would have been home and they wouldn't have been killed. And so Nova's kind of explained to her the laws of the universe, you know, that everybody has their time to die, and it doesn't matter whether they stayed to work or had not even come in that day, that if it was their day to die, they would have died that day anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And that Charlie shouldn't break herself up. So now Charlie, you know, she's crying and carrying on, and she tells Nova about the fact that she was the one that leaked Goldie's, remember the girl who had the affair with Davis, that she was the one that leaked her name to the press. And she also shares that the other basketball players, they did rape the Goldie woman, and that, you know, she feels like she's a horrible person. But I'm not falling for it. I think Charlie... Okay, it was two things that I picked up in that scene. One, Charlie is very selfish, and she wants to make herself look good at all times, and whether it's trying to get sympathy or she's concerned what people are going to say about her. And then the other thing I was wondering is, did she share that information about Goldie and the ball players because she knew Nova would maybe get offended by it and go run and do a story on it, and then maybe that story would take away from a possible story about the fact that they didn't know who the players were, because I think she's more concerned about her image than she is about anything else. So Nova tells her that she had a card to play and she chose to play it. So I think she was kind of like not trying to judge Charlie so harsh. Also a way of Nova, letting Charlie know that she realizes that she's a little conniving ass witch. We're back to Micah and Kiki, and they're getting to know each other better. And Kiki is really straightforward and just all up in poor little Micah's business. And then her dad comes along and, he tells her that it's time to go, but Micah isn't ready for Kiki to leave yet. So Kiki tells him, connect with me on Instagram. And I'm thinking, what happened to, well, here's my number, give me a call later on. But I guess kids don't do that today. It's all about social media. And, that's how they interact with everybody for the world to see, and no privacy anymore. And so she gives Micah her Instagram handle, which is Kiki Twirls. And so Micah says that all one word, and she says, no, that's two words. They're just together. So that, Miss Kiki is going to be a mess, but I'm glad Micah has him a little friend, so he doesn't have to play with Blue all the time. Aunt Violet is outside and she's trying to clean up, and Hollywood won't let her. And so she starts ranting about Ralph Angel and Darla, and Darla's just trying to come back and take Blue away. And so Hollywood tells her, that she's wrong and she needs to let Ralph Angel grow up and make his own decisions. He's a grown man now, and she can't always, think for him and tell him what to do, which I agree to. But she does need to still worry about Blue and not let Darla get her hands on Blue, because I think that's Darla's whole plan. Is she knows that Ralph Angel is weak, and that if she can convince Ralph Angel to try and take Blue away from Aunt Violet, then it'll be easier for her to take Blue away from Ralph Angel. Workers are back on the farm working, and no one has told them about their two friends have died, which I thought was so unrealistic, but I'll just keep that to myself. And so Nova, she's still talking about she wants to do this story and she wants to interview the guys about the death. So they really need to let the guys know what has happened. And so now last week, Charlie, she was speaking Spanish, telling them guys to get back to work, before that storm came. But now all of a sudden, when it's time to tell, that their friends have died, she doesn't really have much to say. And she's like, well, I can't tell them that kind of information in broken Spanish. I don't talk Spanish that good. So Ralph Angel comes to the rescue. He says that he knows someone that can help them out. And so we find out that someone is Blue's teacher, who we haven't seen, I think, since the episode with the funeral. And it amazes me how Ralph Angel has went from the school teacher to Roberta to back with Darla. And I really don't like how they, just keep switching out, these women characters for her, or how a person just disappeared. They were on the show, had a pivotal role, and then all of a sudden we don't see them anymore until it seems convenient to bring them back into the show. The scene with the workers, when they're telling them what's happened, it was a very emotional scene, but I'm kind of happy that they did it because, like I said earlier, it shows the plight of these migrant workers, that come over here and do the service jobs and the labor jobs that many Americans don't want to do, but then they're not really treated as humans. And it's also kind of like that juxtaposition of how, black people were treated during slavery, and then now you have black people treating another class of people the same way. And so the guys, they break down when they hear the news, of course, and we find out, that these men that were killed, they were husbands, they were fathers, sons, brothers, and, there are people somewhere in this world that love them and that are sad, that loves them and that are sad that they're gone. And so we learned that Miguel is married and he's a father of 3. And then Alejandro was recently married and his wife is expecting their first child. And so the camera's kind of panning around the room, like from, Charlie to Nova to I think the sheriff and then Ralph Angel just getting their expression, as this humanistic touch is put on these guys whose names that they didn't even know. So during the midst of all of this, Nova asked the teacher, to ask the guys if it's okay that she records what's going on, because she's a reporter and she wants to do a story. And I'm just like, damn, Nova, is there ever a time when you can just be sympathetic to other people's needs? But, of course, the guys say that they're okay and they'll do it. And towards the end of the conversation, they do ask if they could all pray together. And so they join hands around the room. And the head guy, he leads the prayer and he's leading it, in their native language. Later on, Nova's on the phone with a deputy from the sheriff's department, and he's calling to let her know that they arrested a meth addict who is responsible for killing the two guys, and that he had Alejandro's ID on him, and he also was still carrying the gun that was tied, that they had tied back to the shooting. Charlie lets Nova know that she wants to ship their remains back to their families, and Nova lets her know, they can't do that because it'll be too expensive. And I was just like, how dare you, when you stole $10,000 out of the bank account to get Too Sweet out of jail, who we have not heard mentioned since the day she called that bail bond and said she wanted to pay his bail. And then Charlie, we already know her and Davis spent $3 million to pay off the prostitute. So how can you put those selfish acts before humanity and wanting to ship these bodies back to these to the guy's family so that they can have a proper burial, so that they have a place to mourn? And I was just like, do black people really act like that? Because I thought we were supposed to be some of the most sympathetic and empathetic people on the planet Earth. But the borderlines are showing us that that's not always the case. The Unviolent is still moping around, and Nova comes outside. She was outside sitting on the steps, and Nova comes out, and tells her that she's putting her whole life on hold for Hollywood, Ralph Angel and Blue, and that it's time, for her to put herself first and define her purpose in life and pursue what it is that she was called here to do. And then I liked how she said something about, it's not that the men in her life are half empty and need her to fill them up, but it's because she wasn't meant, her purpose in life wasn't meant to be to keep everybody else full, and that, she needs to fill herself up at some point so she can be happy. And so Violet lets her know that she was raised in an era where your purpose was to take care of your family and make sure that your family were satisfied, and she really enjoys being able, to hold them together and make sure that they have everything they need, but Nova says that it's her time, and so she should take it. And, Nova really wants everybody to, be this free spirit and do whatever you want to do, love who you want to love, whether they're married, whether they're the same sex or whatever. Just be you and be happy and do whatever, regardless of how it impacts other people. And so here comes Darla and, with her conniving ass. Once again, I'm asking, why is Darla still there? Because the migrant workers who live an hour away from St. Josephine's, they were able to make their way to work. The sheriff, he's been coming and going, without any problems. Then we got Boogie and Kiki, they traveling with no problems. And then we have the school teacher, wherever she lives, she was able to get to the farm and get back home. But for some reason, Darla is still there. And so, she's putting the charm on Ralph Angel and talking about, how she really enjoyed the time spending with him and Blue. And so, she can tell that, he's, eating it up. And so she eases in there, the fact that she wants to spend more time with Blue. And would it be possible, if she could come get him sometime? And then Ralph Angel, crazy behind. He's like, yeah, I think that's possible. Let me get him a booster seat for your car and all this here. So we know Aunt Violet's going to have a fit when she finds out, he's making these arrangements. So now that Darla has let her intentions be known, now she can take her butt back home, because then she asked Ralph Angel to take her back to the house so she can get a car and go on about her business. So we know that that was her whole purpose of coming out there in that farm, was to figure out how she was going to get back into Blue's life. So not only is Darla still, at the farm, we find out that Remy's still there too. And so Charlie is laying on the porch swing and she's sleeping. And I used to have a porch. When I bought my house, there was a swing like that on my porch. And I took the swing down because I have a daughter that has autism. And she would go out and get on that swing and she would swing so hard on that thing that I was afraid that, she was going to end up on the roof or something. So I took the swing down. But seeing Charlie laying on that swing, I kind of want to put my swing back up. So anyway, Remy wakes her up and so, he's telling her that he's getting ready to go and, they're kind of making the googly eyes with each other. And I think he wanted to kiss her or something. And Charlie was like, what if people are looking or sees them? And then Remy tells her, we're all grown out here. And so what if they see us? What would they see? And so, Charlie's hemming and hawing around. And so finally he basically tells her, where I want to be more than friends. And when you want to be more than friends, you know where to find me and you know where I live. And so I was like, all right, Remy, put your grown man on. And so as Remy is leaving, that was actually the end of the show. But it got me to thinking, did we hear from Davis the whole show? Like, did Davis call to check on his wife and his child, knowing that there was a hurricane that was bearing down on them? Ava, y'all was wrong with that because Davis could have at least called or sent a text message and say, hey, is everything okay? Do y'all need to come home? Do you need money or whatever? So I don't know what the situation is with Davis and Charlie because she seems to still have access to that bank account. But I don't like how they've just written Davis out of the show. And so hopefully he will return before the season ends. So that's it. It was another good episode, but I am seeing, little missing details and kind of sloppy writing here and there, but it doesn't distract from the, or detract from the show. I think I just see those things because I am a writer, and so I kind of pick up things that the average person probably wouldn't pick up. And actually, this season is 13 episodes, and the last show will air on November 30th. And so I hope Oprah has something else for us to watch before Greenleaf comes back, because I don't think that show comes back until like May or June of next year. If you like Being Mary Jane, I think she said she was on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live the other night, and she says that Being Mary Jane comes back on January 10th, and somebody called in and asked her, was her contract dispute with BET going to delay the taping of the show? And she said no, that they're already taping, and that she's a professional, she's going to do her job, and she's going to perform and act in the show. And then if you like WGN's Underground, they had a party earlier this week for season 2, and that season begins, I think they said February 17th or something like that, but I know it is February of 2017. So I will be reviewing Being Mary Jane and Underground when those shows come back on. Till the next time, check out my channel and watch reviews of Queen Sugar. I think I did the first 2 episodes of Greenleaf, but then Oprah removed them from the app, so there's only 2 episodes of that out there. And I've been doing Issa Rae's Insecure, so all 4 episodes are loaded. And then I did Iyanla. I've been doing Iyanla Fix My Life, and I'm currently in the 3-part series with Iyanla Fix the Black Man's Heart, where she has a bunch of men in a house together dealing with their issues, and it looks like it's going to be pretty good. So I hope everyone has an awesome weekend, and until next time, bye-bye.